You know, if Bernie Sanders never said he was a democratic socialist, based on what he's saying, people wouldn't be calling him a democratic socialist. That's how he characterizes himself in sort of European terms, the democratic socialist parties in Europe.
But why is she having trouble?
Well, I think that Bernie is speaking to a yearning that is deep and real, and he has credibility on it. And that is the absolute enormous concentration of wealth in a small group of people, with the middle class now being able to be shown being left out. There used to be a basic bargain. If you contributed to the profitability of an enterprise, you got to share in the profit. That's been broken. Productivity's up, wages are stagnant.
Hillary's talking about that as well.
Well, it's relatively new for Hillary to talk about that. Hillary's focus has been on other things up to now, and that's been Bernie's. No one questions Bernie's authenticity on those issues. See it that way.
You don't see it that way. And how do you think you're going to do on Tuesday? Where are you going to win?
Well, I don't know where I'm going to win, because I never, even if I did know, I wouldn't say, because I'm superstitious about that as a candidate. But the truth of the matter is, I think we're going to do very well across the board. I think we're going to do very well in places that we've, for example, last night, anyway, I think we're going to do well, from Alabama to doing well in North Carolina to Virginia. I mean, we've had crowds of 2,000, 2,500 people showing up, and real enthusiasm. And so there's some real energy in the campaign, and I'm just hoping that we can carry it, because I think people are beginning to focus. They got a hard choice to make.
Well, Joe Biden is now the presumptive Democratic frontrunner. He's leading the polls in a head-to-head matchup with Bernie Sanders and giving the entire political establishment whiplash at his ascent. You saw Crystal and I grapple with some of this yesterday, but it's important that we once again think about what exactly it would mean to average Americans that Joe Biden become president. Biden's campaign is fundamentally backwards, because that is not the actual purpose of his effort. It's not designed to be a forward-thinking message. It does not think, as Andrew Yang would often say, to the symptoms of a country so fed up it is willing to vote for Donald Trump. Instead, it's propelled forward by a dying Democratic establishment and the primal scream of elites who lost their power in 2016 and stood to lose it again under Sanders and continued with Trump. All the elites of this country want is to return to the year 2013. Biden is very happy to oblige. 2013 was when Barack Obama considered Google and Facebook the apex of American economic achievement. It's the year after his re-election when his administration began in earnest to once again try and sell out American workers by negotiating TPP. It was the year that he decided to use his pen and his phone to illegally legalize millions of illegal immigrants. And it was the year that ISIS rose back up in Iraq and Afghanistan, revealing just how much that they failed to wrap up our foreign misadventures abroad. In each case, the everyday member of the working class paid the price for all of these decisions. Every single decision, every single person needs to ask the question, can you afford to return to the year 2013? Biden was front and center for every single policy failure under Barack Obama. And worse, he has spent his entire career trying to screw working class Americans. Why did people who fared so badly in 2008, why do students continue today to live under crippling student debt? Because Joe Biden led the 2005 effort to strip Americans of bankruptcy protections away at the behest of credit card companies, which led him, in the media at the time, to brand him the senator from MBNA. That was relatively late into his efforts screwing everyday Americans. In 1993, in a speech on the Senate floor before voting for NAFTA, Biden said, "With our vote for NAFTA, we take the first step toward creating more jobs in an expanding world market." Before that, he said he promised the car manufacturer Chrysler would expect to sell more cars to Mexico made in his very own Delaware home state factory. Turns out that factory closed in 2007, the same year he publicly said NAFTA created more jobs than it lost. On the issue of China, it's even worse. Biden supported normalizing trade relations with China in 2000, which, along with joining the World Trade Organization, put them on the path to economic destruction of our middle class today. Biden said at the time that, quote, "This growing prosperity for the Chinese people in turn has put China on a path toward ever greater political and economic freedom." Biden fell for the neoliberal dream that normalizing trade relations with China, making them richer, would make them more democratic. As late 2011, Biden said that he held his original belief that a rising China is a positive development, not only for China, but for America and the world writ large. That puts his original 2020 campaign gaffe about how China is not a threat to the U.S. in pretty clear perspective. Let's take a listen.
Look at who we are. I've met virtually every major world leader in my role as vice president and as foreign relations chairman over the last 30 years. And that's not hyperbole. Virtually every one. I don't know a single solitary one who would not change places with the problems the President of the United States has versus the problems they have. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They can't even figure out how to deal with the fact that they have this great division between the China Sea and the mountains in the west. They can't figure out how they're going to deal with the corruption that exists within the system.
Come on, man. The election of Donald Trump in 2016 should have taught people on the right and the left a lesson. On the right, we learned to hear our voters, try to protect our workers. He and his Obama world cretins have not learned anything. Notice, I haven't even gotten to the fact that his son is a degenerate who traded off of his famous father's name for decades, rode the trains a lot, so he got to sit on the Amtrak board of directors. He apparently was an oil and gas expert, so he sat on the board of a Ukrainian energy company. And of course, he's a famed venture capitalist, which is why the Chinese government gave his company a sweetheart $1 billion financing deal while his father was the vice president in the year 2012. I can go on and on. I just wanted to give you all an update so that you knew Hunter was okay. He has now decided to act as a starving artist in a multi-million-dollar mansion. It's really inspiring. And then, of course, I'll finish with this. 4 years of Biden would mean electing a person in clear decline. I'll let him speak for himself.
Why attack Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take the night pizza. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were. Make sure make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone.
And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
And he cut off a 6-foot length of chain. He folded up. He said, you walk out with that chain. And you walk to the car and say, you may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.
If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you very much.
2016 was a transition year from neoliberalism of the 1980s. In our history, we've always capped the end of an era with a one-term president who was a complete failure. John Quincy Adams, James Buchanan, Herbert Hoover, Jimmy Carter, and if we're not careful, Joseph R. Biden.
Do not underestimate Donald Trump. He'll have endless amounts of money because he doesn't believe in the rule of law. He will combine federal agencies with his own campaign. He has a loyal group of supporters. So it's not going to be so easy to beat him. But I believe that it'll be very hard to beat him when you're running a old-fashioned type of campaign. When you're running, the same old.
That was Bernie Sanders Wednesday night going after Joe Biden's old-fashioned campaign. But if Biden wins the nomination, he'll get a lot of help from Mike Bloomberg's deep-pocketed digital firm. Hawkfish is the firm that carried out Bloomberg's $100 million online ad campaign. We're told he intends to fund it to help Democrats through November. By law, the company would not be able to coordinate with the nominee's campaign, an arrangement similar to super PACs, which can accept unlimited contributions and spend limitless sums working to defeat or elect candidates as long as they act independently. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Politico reports Donald Trump's re-election campaign has spent aggressively to advertise on Facebook, including a combined $35.6 million on Trump and Pence pages since May of 2018. Willie?
Joining us now here in New York, staff writer for The New Yorker, Andrew Marantz. His piece for the magazine's latest issue is entitled #Winning. Brad Parscale used social media to sway the 2016 election. He's poised to do it again. Andrew is also author of Antisocial, Online Extremists, Techno-Utopians, and the Hijacking of the American Conversation. Andrew, good morning. Good to see you.
Thanks.
So let's talk about your piece. Those of us who cover politics every day know who Brad Parscale is. We know what he did in 2016 to help Donald Trump win. But for our audience, who exactly is he? Where did he come from? And why was he so successful in 2016?
So he was a guy from Kansas who moved to San Antonio to play college basketball and just kind of learned how to build websites. He was a web developer. And then over time, 2010, 11, 12, the business of web development became more about web marketing, about getting your message to travel through the various channels of social media. So he got good at search engine optimization and good at Facebook and Twitter and all these things. And then he got a big client named Donald Trump, who, wanted him to build real estate websites and Trump winery websites and all these things. There was nothing particularly remarkable about it at the time. But then when Trump decided to run for president, he said, I think I need a digital arm of my campaign where I can figure out how to get that side of the message out. And actually, Trump was not prioritizing that. Trump still believed that TV was the way to get everything out. But Parscale, he wasn't like some singular earth-shattering genius or anything. He just said, hey, there's this thing called Facebook, there's this thing called Twitter, we should invest some money in that. And in fact, because they were underfunded compared to Hillary Clinton, they actually had to spend a lot of money on Facebook because it was cheaper and it was more micro-targeted. You could get the exact demographics you wanted to hit. And so he spent $100 million on Facebook and it did a lot of good.
You describe a guy in Brad sitting there literally at his laptop by himself buying Facebook ads at the beginning of the 2016 campaign, sending blast text out for fundraising. How did he grow it? What did he do that was uniquely good in 2016 in terms of his job and getting the president elected?
Well, one of the biggest things he did is that he said to Facebook, I'm going to spend a lot of money on your platform. I'm a big advertiser. Can you send someone to my campaign to help me? And the Hillary Clinton campaign was offered that too, and they turned it down because they thought it was too many cooks in the kitchen. They said, we got it in-house, we'll take care of it. But Parscale in San Antonio, where he was running the digital operation, which he called Project Alamo, he said, yeah, come on in and I'll have an embed from Facebook, just show me the reins. And so essentially you have Facebook working on the Trump campaign's behalf, not because they didn't offer it to the other side, but because the other side didn't accept it. So then now you have, all kinds of little inner workings of the mechanics of the platform that wouldn't be visible to an outsider, that because there are employees who know how to get the job done, they're doing all kinds of intricate things through machine learning, through artificial intelligence, where if you have a list of likely voters, Facebook can actually double that list for you through kind of AI magic.
You're saying the one genius, the one strategic move was we brought Facebook in-house.
Correct.
Frightening.
A preview of the battle between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders came after President Trump made this comment at a town hall meeting last night.
If you don't cut something in entitlements, you'll never really deal with the debt.
We'll be cutting, but we're also going to have growth like you've never had before.
Sanders took the opening to attack Biden, tweeting that he has repeatedly advocated for cuts to Social Security. As a senator in the 1990s, Biden was open to cuts to Social Security as a way to balance the budget. But he now advocates for expanding the program and responded to Sanders saying the only person who would cut Social Security if he's elected is Donald Trump. Maybe you should spend your time attacking him. After Biden's Super Tuesday wins, and as the contest turns to 6 states voting on Tuesday, Sanders is trying to draw sharp contrasts.
We have very different records, and the American people should understand the difference.
Biden and Sanders are hoping for the endorsement of Senator Elizabeth Warren, who dropped out yesterday. But she says she's not there yet.
Let's take a deep breath and spend a little time on that.
In a historically large and diverse Democratic field, Warren was the front-runner for a time last year, but her exit means Democrats are unlikely to once again nominate a woman.
One of the hardest parts of this is all those big promises and all those little girls who are going to have to wait 4 more years. That's going to be hard.